Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Jets, Knicks, and Mets fans. My name is Nick, aka Goody, and with me is my old man, aka the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. All right. So this past Monday, Jets put up an embarrassing offensive performance against the Chargers. They lost 27-6. You were in the house in MetLife on your East Coast World Tour and got to take it in firsthand. Talk to me, big guy. What did you see? How are we feeling?
It was a tough night for sure. I mean, the mood in the crowd was very depressed, very stressed out. Unfortunately, I did have some Charger fans sitting close to me that were very happy, very excited. We just sucked. Our offense was a joke, but the fact of the matter is, our defense did to them almost what their defense did to our offense, except we had the turnovers and the special teams score.
That was the
Uh,
first bad punt all season by Morstead. And I'm telling you that in the air, I could see that he outkicked it, that it wasn't that very, very high and it was very deep. And in the air, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that. And we know how it worked out.
Man, it was the crowd. It's incredible how the crowd that just sucks the air out of the stadium. Everybody just was like, oh, 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 and it just went, yeah, it kind of went downhill from there. So it wasn't a good night all around. Hopefully, we can turn it around against the Raiders.
Yeah, tough night, tough night. Obviously, listen, in this league, a lot of the blame is going to be laid at the feet of the quarterback. And there's definitely some things that he could do better. And I'm starting to just get to a point where I just don't think he'll ever be a guy who like processes quickly and just has like really good instincts. But we didn't really give him much of an opportunity to be able to play because, I mean, the offensive line was an absolute joke. I thought that Hackett did a terrible job of putting us in positions where we have, either that pony package with the two running backs, which we never run. We did that strictly was a Mike LaFleur thing. Is Mike LaFleur better than Hackett? I don't know. But but yeah, and I've seen a lot of the smart people, the Bart Scotts, I heard Rex Ryan talk about, what you do is you have the two tight ends, and instead of having them loaded on one side, you put one on each side. Give Billy Turnstile a chance. And instead, we would when we did do two tight ends, which we didn't do too often, we had them both on the left, but they should be trained to block and chip, and then from that, and whether it be just running a quick little hook or out into the flat, being available as an outlet, because what we were doing was either being naked and giving Zach, no protection, and he's just getting pummeled the entire time. Guys are, I mean, literally, Billy Turner is backing up into him like within a second of the play starting. Or we
Mhm.
were running plays where we only had two people going out and they were in zone and they only rushed four and dropped seven. So that's one of those things where you have to have guys that can adjust on the fly and stay in there to chip if they are coming, but then if they're not, then break out and give Zach another option. So I think that that's strictly a coaching thing. It doesn't seem like we game planned for that at all. And I mean, it was just a tough night. Alan Lazard sucks. Okay. He's not a number two receiver in the NFL. He's just not. He can't catch the ball. He's strictly a body catcher. He never tries to catch it with his hands. He never tries to high point anything. He is supposed to be such a good blocker, but half the time when he does that, it's a penalty. And the other penalties that he had, I'm over that guy. It's just, it seems like everybody that we brought in because they're homies with our guy A-Rod, they all suck. Hackett sucks. Lazard sucks. Billy Turner sucks. Um, 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 Randall Cobb sucks. They all suck.
Tell us how you really feel, Nick. I think that, as far as judging the quarterback, it's tough when, people are being dog walked back into them. And the problem with the offensive line is that if you got four offensive linemen playing halfway decent and you got one that's just shit in the bed and just getting run through, the whole offensive line looks bad. It really is a togetherness thing, and we're really bad there. Well, Billy Turner that's saying he may not play this week because he's got a broken hand, which I don't care what anyone says, that could only be an improvement. As far as Lazard, very disappointing. Very disappointing. He's just dropping too many balls that are right there on him. Listen, every receiver drops a ball. Our guy Garrett Wilson dropped a ball at night and had a crucial fumble.
Huge fumble.
We had a lot of mistakes in that game. A lot of mistakes, not well, a lot of mistakes by the quarterback, but a lot of mistakes by other people on the team too. It's just very disappointing. Offensively, we've got to get our shit together. I don't know when it's going to happen. I hope it's going to happen, but I honestly don't think the way we're playing up front. I don't think either of the other quarterbacks that are on the team now would make a difference. And I frankly think if Aaron Rodgers was back there, he'd get friggin' killed. He'd be injured again immediately because this guy's getting hit too much, man. What's his name is getting hit a lot. And I mean, he's getting hit sometimes in less than 2 seconds. That's crazy when you think about it. I mean, in less than 2 seconds, he's getting hit. So it's as if these guys are running to him with nothing in between them and him. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is coming back this year. I know a lot of people do and hope. I don't think it's going to happen. But honestly, if we don't do better up front, I don't think it would be smart to bring him back this year.
Listen, I don't know, and this is only like me listening to other people who, are smarter than me talk about football. But one of the things they say is that when it comes to Rodgers, he would not only be getting the ball out of his hand quicker, but he would be making better checks and things like that at the line,
Sure.
which would allow him to, not get destroyed back there. But also with Zach, listen, when your receivers are dropping balls, nobody can get open, and your offensive line is, just giving up free passes. And then in addition to that, your scheme isn't that great, and you have no running game. It's not easy to be successful at quarterback with all of those things. But there
I
are
read,
certain things. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I read where somebody made a good point that said, if you have our situation now with Alan Lazard, you double Garrett Wilson every time. You single cover Lazard because you can,
Mhm.
and that's impossible. All the good receivers you see have somebody good outside on the other side, so they can't just totally and liberally double and triple team the big guy, which is Garrett Wilson, and leave this guy alone with some third-rate corner who can cover him because he's playing half-ass. It's very frustrating. He's not living up to what we all hoped he would be.
But this is also exactly why I've been screaming, if we can get another weapon, go get another weapon. You
They
can't
tried,
have that guy. Yeah, they did try. They did try. And like I said, even the Jets knew that. You know what I mean? They tried to go out
right?
there and get the two best wide receivers that they could. They weren't able to. But yeah, man, I just, with Zach, the things that I see, he processes things slow. He just does. You can
Sure.
see it. He processes things slow, and he has, it seems like, zero like football. Like, and there's some guys that no matter what position they play, you say that guy, he's just a football player, and we all kind of know what that means. Zach is the exact opposite of that. He's a guy who was, it seems like he's been playing in like 7-on-7 leagues, playing flag like like my son does now, and nobody's hitting anybody. Everybody's just running around loosey goosey, slinging the rock. That's it. It seems like that's how he tries to play in the NFL. And I mean, the perfect example. And this was one of those things, like, I always, whenever I see something with replay, I realize, like, okay, I'm getting the benefit of replay. But in the moment when Zach Wilson went to scramble and then he pitched the ball to Michael Carter, and in the moment I said, just run the ball, because you could see that nobody was right there. And the thing is that then after the play, they showed the angle from behind Zach Wilson, and you got to see the whole field. He could have run for 30, 40 yards probably. But the worst part about it to me was the pitch to Michael Carter. Michael Carter was the one guy. He had a guy right on top of him, and that guy, Michael Carter, would have blocked that guy. Zach would have, ran for as long as he wanted to. But that just to me just showed a total lack of awareness. The game gets sped up for him, and you can just see that he can't make the quick. I like you watch a guy like Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow seems like he's like drop, drop, boom, all the time. Zach never seems like that. He does silly things with his feet, and some of the things that I felt like he was getting better at started to rear their, they started to show up in this game. That bad feet, that throw to that throw on third down at the very beginning of the game, that was like nowhere close. It almost seems as if he's regressing, and I'm sure some of that is because of all the heat he's taking from opposing defensive lines.
Not some of it, all of it. I think you see a regression in Zach's play because we've seen a regression in the offensive line play. Think about it. The offensive line was slightly on the upswing then. We had a couple injuries, and now we've gone on the downswing, and now he's making all those same old mistakes. Because, you say Burrow does drop, drop, boom. Zach goes drop, boom. Before
Burrow's had
before he
some
can get to that.
terrible offensive lines. Burrow went to the Super Bowl with a terrible offensive line.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but I don't know if they're dropping him back deeper. I don't know what they're doing, but he seems to be able to make those two reads and then throw the ball. Zach doesn't seem to even have that much time. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I'm just I do realize that a lot of the fault is with Zach. There's no doubt he has to get better, but man, I do think that with the offensive line going, south, we've seen his play go south. He obviously needs a much more secure pocket than like a Joe Burrow. Clearly, Joe Burrow can do this in a more stressful situation much, much, much better than Zach Wilson. That said, Zach's not that guy now. He may never be, but he definitely is not now the guy that can carry your team when everything around him is falling down. He's not that guy. I mean, he just isn't. And, Aaron Rodgers is clearly more that guy, but I just think the potential injury quotient right now for anybody back there. I will say, I hear what you're saying about Zach Wilson with the 7-on-7 analogy. I would have never thought that Zach is as tough as he is looking.
Pretty tough. Pretty tough.
Few weeks. That guy just keeps the same expression out there, and he's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, no, I have to give him that, and he does stand in there and take the hit and deliver the ball. Whether or not that ball's is actually
On
caught
target or caught.
or caught. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's really tough. I mean, anybody who watches Garrett Wilson knows that he's extremely loosey goosey with the ball sometimes in the open field, and he's got to quiet that shit down. Remember last year there was a time where he fumbled without anyone making contact with him just because he was doing some silly shit with the ball.
Yeah.
He's got to chill that out. That was a huge drop or fumble rather. The defense, they say all the right things after the game, but there's got to be some part of them that's like getting a little bit frustrated, obviously, with how good they are and the offense is, just total ineptitude. It's just been this game for me, like I lost all faith in us doing anything of any type of note this season. I've lost all faith in Zach ever being a starting quarterback in the NFL. And, we need to, in this offseason, get some offensive linemen and get a playmaking tight end who can get open and catches the ball and, get a decent number two receiver. Now, I know these things aren't growing on trees. They're not the easiest things to do, but it would seem like definitely offensive line needs to be the thing that we get tightened up before, Rodgers comes back next year.
Yeah, that's job one. And I think Conklin's done a halfway decent job. Uzama's not here next year. That's just a fact.
Conklin's never opened. Every time, even when he does catch a ball, and some guys run on top of him, and I've seen, I think it was Bart Scott talk about the fact that like some guys just always find a way to get open. You have your Travis Kelce's of the world that they just understand to fall into. But I'm just saying a lot of what he does is unscripted, like where he's just like, okay, this is the spot in the zone, and he figures out a way.
Because he and his quarterback have that connection.
Some of it, I think, is that for sure, for sure. He looked pretty good with like Chad Henne,
Yeah, I
here
mean, he's
recently.
also, arguably the best tight end in the league, and maybe the best in the last 10 years. I mean, he's great.
Yes,
Okay,
he's very good.
yes. Is he better than Conklin? 1,000%. He's better than everyone else. I mean, Jesus.
Listen, I'm not saying that he needs to be, he needs to, match the production of Kelsey, but I'm just saying that I think that some guys know how to get open and some guys aren't that good at it. And I think that it seems like on our team, Garrett Wilson seems like the only person that I ever see catch a ball and somebody's not right there on top of him. And I don't know if some of that is scheme or some of that is just, lack of ability to get open by our skill position players. We can't figure it out a way to get Brees involved as much as we need to.
Yeah.
And then Garrett also had that huge penalty that erased like a 20-yard run by Brees. Garrett Wilson
Oh,
had an
yes.
illegal block in the back, and that erased like a
And
20-yard
it,
run
and it was egregious too. It was just like obvious and stupid.
and not necessary. The play was already
Totally.
passed. It was just, I mean, they just, on the big
Right.
stage. I got to listen to Troy Aikman just talk his shit and just shit on the Jets the entire night. He was so annoying. And it's just, you ever notice that Troy Aikman looks exactly like a white Jay-Z?
People say that. I think that's
Oh,
stupid.
they look you look at a picture of them two next to each other, they look exactly alike. But yeah, man, just a tough one. And what'd you think about this whole thing with Salah pleading the fifth? I have some thoughts on that, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, I didn't. I was out of town, so I was just reading a couple things on my phone about it, and I don't understand why he said that. I don't believe, of course, now that sends conspiracy theorists running wild. That's like manna from heaven for conspiracy theorists, but it's um it's not. I mean, I believe that, whatever their plan is and whatever their thoughts are on it, maybe they don't want to share it. But I think that's just, I don't know why he put it that way. I think that was inartful
Well,
because
so
it brings more questions, you know?
it does, and once that started to get legs, I heard that and was like, oh no, that doesn't sound good. And doesn't and Salah typically is very, he seems
Very
very
sure.
calculated and yeah,
Yes.
yeah, about what he says to the media. So I actually, Pat McAfee yesterday, he made the point that he said everybody's making a big deal, and it seems like he's throwing his quarterback under the bus, but you have to listen to the entire clip. So then he played like a 3-minute clip from the Michael K show, and you heard the entire thing, and it's totally taken out of context when you just hear the last part. What happened was is Michael K asked him that question once. Salah gave a very like, hey, I have to look at things like,
Right.
from every angle, and he explained himself. And then he asked them basically the exact same question again. So when he was saying I'm pleading in the fifth, he was basically saying, listen, Jurgoff, I just answered that question as much as I'm
Exactly.
going to answer it. There's nothing else I can say to you. So I guess I'll go ahead
Exactly.
and plead the fifth. And it's so clear if you listen to the full clip that that was what he was doing. So that's just, that's clickbait. You found a small little piece. You could put that out there, and it makes it seem a certain way. If anybody takes the time to listen to the full clip, nobody can feel any type of way about it. I'm sure that Salah is worried about his own locker room, and especially with that situation that happened last year. Free Mike White. So I'm sure that he's massaging that. But I mean, listen, if we had a Mike White, I would say, yo, we need to give Mike White a shot. But
Right.
I mean, the two guys that we have on I mean, Simeon, and then what's the guy from another one of A-Rod's
Tim
lackeys?
Boyle.
Yeah, you got Boyle. I'm not screaming to see Boyle or see Simeon. Like I'm, I'm not screaming to see either of those guys. It's just
That
it's
said, I think if Zach really shits the bed for his half this week and just looks terrible, I could see them going. And we're doing, the defense is doing a good job. We're in the game. I could see them making a change this week, mid game.
Boyle. You think you
I
can
got
see
a feeling.
it could be Boyle season?
No, Well, I mean, yeah, is Simeon even
Simeon hasn't been
dressed?
active. He
Right.
hasn't been active recently. No.
So I guess it will be Boyle, which I don't understand because I believe Simeon is better than Boyle, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They both suck. If we have to try, I think that Zach even gives us a slightly better chance to win than either of those guys do. And I was a little, I'm a little nervous about this game because this Raiders team just put up 30 points against
I
the
know.
Giants.
All
You
of a
know,
sudden, they're reborn under Antonio Pierce, and the Giants get them all lubed up and primed up for us. That's just great.
yeah, man, it's gonna be Sunday night. We're gonna have all the eyes on us once again,
Again,
and we listen. Hackett better figure something out, man. He looks so overmatched sometimes, and it seemed like nobody told him that like Joey Bosa is pretty good, and this guy Khalil Mack on the other side, he's not so bad either. And maybe if Joey Bosa is just single-handedly destroying our entire game plan, maybe just maybe we should you know, put somebody over there to help out Billy Turnstile.
right? Yeah, that's a great name for that guy, by the way. He's just the worst, Nick. He's
Dad, I
holy.
know you've always disliked him. I know you have. First of all, he's the smallest offensive lineman that you'll ever
I
see.
told you the guy's shoulders are so narrow for an offensive lineman.
He
What's
looks
going
like
on?
he looks like he
Who is
should
this
be
guy?
hanging out at
What's it?
like a coffee shop doing like Def Poetry Jam or some shit, not
But he
being an
doesn't
NFL
look
offensive
bigger than
lineman.
most running backs.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, and he's
Who
terrible.
is this guy?
I also don't love like putting him at right tackle. Like, why didn't we? I like Max Mitchell was doing okay. I don't know, man. It's you would
Nick,
think that they see these guys and they know the best combinations and those things, but any combination that involves Billy Turner is not the best combination.
put Ruckert out there. Put anybody out
Seriously, get a tight end
there.
over there and have him play. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody, anybody, but not this guy. I don't want to see him again. Period.
Listen, hopefully we can put up a decent showing this week. In Oakland. I'm glad that I didn't go ahead and book a trip to that for our Sunday night. And especially your experience that I was like the whole time I was like, damn, can't believe he's sitting there for this game. And we're just so embarrassing on offense. It must be so, so frustrating, but
It was tough. At
as it
least the
is.
weather wasn't bad, which was
Right.
good, because guys had told me like the week before against the Giants was
Oh,
miserable with the rain. I
yeah.
was up at Syracuse University Friday night and it was pretty chilly up there. So I was happy that the weather was good and yeah, it was a nice outing with friends, but a shitty game.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this week. Hopefully they give us something to make us feel a little bit hopeful. Let's pivot over to our beloved Knickerbockers. In the past week, we've got to see the worst of Julius and some of the best of Julius. That game last Friday against Milwaukee, I was actually watching that game on my phone, fist pumping when we took the lead with under a minute to go. I was at my son's flag football game, and then after that, we take a couple bad shots. And I mean, you were pretty prophetic last week when you said at the end of this game, you have to be in control of this game because if not, Dame time, and that's exactly what happened. He just decided to hit a couple shots. Um, Grimes looked on that one of his one of Dame that pull up three that he hits a pull up three, Dame, and then when he gets all the way to the basket and gets and one by Grimes. I've went back and I've watched that multiple times. I have no idea what Grimes exactly was trying to accomplish on that play. He had his back to Dame, he literally had his back to him and just let him cut back door and then fouled him softly to let him get it just made no sense. A lot of the talk across the internet was that the play just before that, Julius, I mean, if somebody could just get this guy like a body language coach or something, it makes it so much worse on himself sometimes just by his body language. And I actually think a lot of people say like he put his hands up like this because Brunson didn't give him the ball. I actually think that gesture was towards the refs because he thought that Brunson got fouled, which again, some of the officiating that game was a joke. But Yeah, then getting back, he's like guarding Giannis like 42 feet from the basket as everything's happening in front of him. It was a bad look. I don't actually think it was as bad as it actually looked, but he then very, very for my own sanity and for all the shit that I talk in support of him, he then turns around and has two of his two best games of the season back to back. And I did read today that he's been playing at about 70% with the ankle, that he's been having some
Right,
ankle soreness.
right.
But what have you thought of the Knicks this past week, especially Julius?
Look, Julius seems to be on the upswing. He, is starting out slow. He seems to be figuring it out. I like for the most part his attitude so far this year. His defense, he's active. He does slip back into his bad habits sometimes. I mean, there's just no way around it. The less we get of that, the better we will be. If we consistently play consistent ball where we're going hard and playing hard defense, and like I told you, Julius is one of the leaders of that defense. I don't know that he realizes it, but he is. When he plays good, hard defense, and that doesn't mean just very athletic, active, out of control defense where you're making stupid fouls. That's good, hard defense, which he does sometimes. That really leads our team. That and also, listen, the rebirth of R.J. Barrett. I told you, he's all grown up. He's more settled. He's making better decisions. Maybe he's every night after the game he's out walking them little French bulldogs he's got. Something. But he's very calm. He's very smooth. I like his shooting motion seems excellent. We spoke about that, and he just he's playing a better brand of ball, and the confidence is carrying over to his entire game, not just offensively but defensively too. He seems more settled. Will he continue this upswing, this trajectory? We'll have to see. But I'm very I mean, the numbers on him so far are outrageously good.
Yeah, the RJ leap is real.
Yeah,
47% from the field and from three, 86% from the line. He's got some of the best defensive metrics in the entire league. And this is against like there's like that first game against Boston, the numbers when he was guarding Tatum's numbers were like he was like 1 of 9. So this guy, man, listen, everybody keeps talking about like what the Knicks need to do to get a third star. And, this is something that we've talked about previously and something that I think that we're seeing come to fruition is it is now RJ becoming that 1A, 1B, and with him and Brunson and Julius kind of being that third guy. And if RJ can really truthfully like get to that next level, and especially at the end of games, be able to do some of the things that we've seen him have the ability to do, that's what takes us to the next level. It's not about going out and getting some other star. It's about RJ becoming that guy, and we're seeing it. Like you said, the shooting motion. He's got a lower load up point on both his free throw and his 3-point shot. His free throw now, as opposed to him just going up there like and actually like, okay, I'm looking at the rim, I'm trying to shoot it. Now it just seems like he's got a motion that it's just like I repeat this motion from this far away, and this is
right,
going to be the result. And
right.
he's just gotten so much better at that. His passing looks great. He's been, finding the open man. The entire team has been passing the ball really, really well. I mean,
Yeah,
and it shows in our assist numbers, in our field goal percentage numbers. What these last two games have come down to for me, as compared to some of the other games that we've lost, is we've been hitting threes. When the Knicks hit threes, they're going to play good defense. We're going to hold you to just around 100 points typically. I think they give up 102 a game, and they are going to move the ball typically on offense. It's just about whether or not we're knocking down the three at a decent clip. If we are, I think that's how we get to that 50 plus win. If we're not, I think that's when we're, in that 45 range. But yeah, man, seeing the games this past week, I loved what we did to Wemby. I mean, Mitch straight up punked that kid. I mean, he showed him what time it was. You could
yeah,
just see that he's not used to dealing with somebody who is almost as big as him and is as spry as Mitch is. And,
yeah.
Mitch really, really, Mitch busted his ass. Mitch has more offensive rebounds than like three teams in the NBA right now.
Yeah, he's killing it. Mitch is doing his thing this year. I think with us hitting more threes in these last few games, I think a lot of it has to do with our motion and our penetration into the paint and then the kick out. When we're just throwing it around the perimeter, swinging it around the perimeter, we're much less efficient on shooting as opposed to the drive and the kick. At least one time in the possession, it loosens up the defense differently. It just makes us, I think, a more efficient shooting 3-point team.
Real quick, on the motion part, Dad, you know that I have been screaming for this nonstop since Tibbs has been the coach. And in
Mhm.
the last two games, I've absolutely noticed that we have action off of the ball going on, and guys are moving, and we're running more, more modern NBA sophisticated plays. So I just wanted to point that out. I've been begging for it. We've been doing it recently. Hope it continues.
So now, what you have to remember about this when you don't see it is that when you don't see it, it's not because of Tibbs. Because Tibbs, I think, just runs a particular type of motion offenses with some nuance, right? And he's telling the guys, keep moving, trust the pass. That's his whole thing, right? And that's what he means by saying that. It is part of their offense, but sometimes they stagnate. Now, does Tibbs at times need to be more on these guys that, hey, stop standing still, move off the ball and stuff like that? Yeah, he does probably, but they know how to do it. They know that there are such plays in their repertoire. They just sometimes, for whatever reason, don't do it. And that's the most frustrating part. But they have been playing a lot better. Love what I'm seeing from DiVincenzo as well. He's been fantastic. And, if RJ keeps playing the way he's playing and his trajectory, and he keeps playing at this level, I mean, that's going to make Grimes better because that takes the pressure off of him. I just think he'll come up. He'll come up. It'll just take him a little more time. But RJ's fantastic, man. I'm really thrilled about it.
Yeah, no, I listen, I'm a little disappointed in Grimes thus far this season. I don't think he's aggressive enough. I think he has one play per game where he puts the ball on the floor and gets all the way to the rim, but he just has one of them per game, and that's it. It's like it's a quota. He hits it and he's like, all right, I can't do that anymore. I'm not allowed to. It almost seems like he feels like. So I mean, listen, his defense is excellent. It's always going to be excellent. I definitely was hoping to see a little bit more of a development of his offensive game, and we haven't seen it so far this season. And you can see at some of these end of the lineup games, he's the odd man out because especially if Quick is going, I need Quick in it too, not you, guy. And
Yeah.
I loved how Quickly looked on Wednesday against the Spurs. Quick looked great. Quick showed like his whole bag in that game. It was the dish off, relocate three, the floater, the getting all the way to the rim, the throwing the lob. The I love the fact that we had it was clearly a game plan against Wembenyama because I saw RJ, I saw Quick, and I saw Julius all come and strip him whenever he got into the post. They came on the backside and stripped him, and
Mm-hmm.
they realized that he doesn't see that well. And that guy Wemby's good, and he's going to be, if he stays healthy, he'll be one of those guys who it's like, yeah, he's one of the best players in the NBA, but he's gotta put on some weight. I mean, he's just too light in the ass. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Hartenstein was just absolutely bullying that kid.
yeah. Mitch was very strong against him too. You love it now that Mitch got a little man size on him, and he just seems, like, I mean, he's a bigger guy than a Wemby, man. Wemby's looking a little wimpy against Mitch. So, you have to give Mitch credit for his game that day. He was just so active. And, Wemby will be great. I really do feel that. He's an amazing player, but he's got to put it together. He's in a tough spot at times now because of the kind of attention you can put on him. But he needed a little more that night, and the Knicks were able to lock him down for sure.
Yeah, one of my favorite developments over the last couple games as well, something that I've never seen us run before, and what it seems like whenever we do, we get a great shot, is the Julius Mitch pick and roll.
Yes.
Whenever, I mean, and then Julius throwing the lob to him, Julius getting all the way to the rim and finishing. And that's the thing that, like, the jump shooting was a little bit off to start the season. But again, I continue to see it the amount of times that Julius is getting all the way to the rim and laying the ball up at the rim, just straight to the rim and laying it up, and as opposed to doing some crazy double pump up and under bullshit. It just seems like that's happening more and more. So I love the fact that he is seeming to put an emphasis on that. He just got to stay locked in with the defense. He's got to be mindful of his body language, and he's got to just keep shooting the ball. We can't when he's tentative. It's not good for us. He's great
No.
at moving the ball. He's a very good passer, especially for a guy of his size. But there are times where we just need him to be aggressive.
Did you were you talking about Julius being a very good passer?
Yes, that he averages over 5 assists
Yeah, no,
every
he's a
year.
good passer. He's a good
There's
passer.
the only two guys with more 10, 5, and 5 games. The only two guys with more of those than Julius thus far this year are Luca and Joker. That's the thing. And he's always one of those, that he's going to average 20, 22, 10, and 5. And, he had 16 boards against the Spurs. I think that, yeah, I do think that he's a very good passer. Yes.
I think he's a good passer when he passes the ball quickly. If
And
he
when he
has,
doesn't leave his
he
feet.
have, if he has more than three dribbles, he's a terrible passer. Okay, that's just a fact, and
No,
you've seen it, and I've seen it.
he
Three
occasionally will
dribbles and more, he's a terrible passer.
he
Fact.
occasionally will throw a fastball at somebody's shins, but he also sometimes jumps in the air and makes great passes out to guys like Grimes or quickly for threes. So I
That
think
is a
overall,
game of chance. Okay, that's at best a roulette wheel spin. At best.
Yeah, no, but you said before, DiVincenzo, love how he plays. Even in the last game, I think he shot like 1 for 6, but he has such an impact on the game. I love when him and Quick are on the floor at the same time and they can switch
Mhm.
off between like who's the lead and who's the off guard. And they get out and transition. Him and Hart, they both have great hands. They both are always getting their hand on the ball, and they both really, when they get their hand on the ball, they have strong hands, and they secure that ball. Josh Hart finally looked like himself on Wednesday. He was
Yeah,
hitting threes. He was, getting the long rebounds, pushing the ball up the floor. He looked like himself. It was good to play the Spurs. They're not a very good team. I know that we had the same record going into the game, but they're not a very good team. And we were able to, give them that work like we were supposed to. And then now we have a few days off, and we can hopefully get a little bit more, get a little rest, get a little healthy. I know Brunson's got the hand, RJ's got the knee, Julius has got the ankle. So let these guys rest up a little bit. Sunday matinee in the Garden, and yeah, I feel good about the Knicks. I really do. I feel like we're moving in the right direction. Julius is coming out of his slump, and RJ is that dude.
it's so up and down. We both know a week from now we could feel totally different. So it's such a crapshoot, especially this time of year where we're really still striving for an identity. But listen, there's no reason not to feel good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think our identity, like any Tibbs team, is that we're going to play defense and offensively. I really hope that we can. I hope that we can shoot well all throughout the season, and we have enough guys with good percentages that it seems like we should be a decent 3-point shooting team. But I think that's going to be, the difference between the type of season and where the season ends up with the Knicks is going to be about how we shoot the three ball.
The key is going to be to me is getting to the line and shooting well from the line. If we
Yes.
do enough of that, I think the shooting will follow. It'll just all fall into place. But if we have games where we're just shooting from shooting from outside and not getting to the basket, then we're going to be, it's not going to be good. I think those are the games where our shooting suffers. So, hopefully we'll continue moving the ball and moving ourselves and getting better results.
Yeah, Brunson has seemed like he's starting to hit some of those shots that you expect to see
Mm-hmm.
him hit. He's come out of his slump, and yeah, like you said, when he gets his feet in the paint, and then you make that swing. Like the other thing about Julius is when it comes to his passing, Julius gets a lot of hockey assists. A lot. There's a lot of times where he gets the ball, he makes a swing, somebody grabs it, they swing it, and they get the assist. I'm telling you, man, stop sleeping
I'll
on my
say
man
you
Julius.
are so inventive in finding ways to compliment Julius. I mean,
Well, Shout to my guys over at Knicks Anonymous. They're big Julius defenders as well, and we battle some clowns in in the comments every once in a while. But if you're into the Knicks and you got some sense, check out our guys over at Knicks Anonymous. But yeah, quickly let's pivot to the Mets. They hired a new manager, Carlos Mendoza. Dad, I tell you, when I first saw that they hired this guy, I just it was for a second like I had a brain fart of I was like because I didn't know who it was. I was like Carlos Mendoza, who the fuck is that? And for a second, I thought to myself that it was Eduardo Perez. I thought that, and you know that he was he
You
was
hate
he
Eduardo
was a
Perez.
finalist for the Mets, man. After listening to that guy on that terrible Sunday Night Baseball crew, which they haven't gotten that right since like Joe Morgan was on the crew. But I think he sounds like such a just a big idiot, and I just
He
like
does not
if
like his
that,
voice.
I don't like his
He
voice.
sounds
He talks
congested.
he talks like very slowly and like this, and he whenever he gets a chance, he likes to show people that he can speak Spanish. Your name is Eduardo Perez. We get it,
We get it. You're Tony Perez's son.
but he talks like so. He to me reminds me he could be like a Sesame Street character. Just his overall look, his cadence, the way he talks, everything about him. He's
Uh,
basically
Cosby Kid's character.
well, that's a little before my time.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, I listen, when it comes to this guy Mendoza, I don't know much about him. Speaking Spanish, he's bilingual, so I think that that's something that is good for a modern day MLB manager.
Sure.
He seems to have some respect around the league. He was a finalist for a few different jobs. We seem to have lost the bidding war for Craig Counsell. Craig Counsell got his bag and got to keep his family close to home, so he doesn't have to
Right.
move the fam. I get that, but with a manager, you never know. It's one of those things that you have to
Never
see
know.
how it all plays out. Hopefully, he's a guy that can galvanize these guys. Baseball manager is probably the least impactful of all the major sports, but then you have a guy like Bruce Bochy, who it seems like no matter where he goes, he makes a huge impact. So,
Seems to do it right.
yeah, man, I'm interested to see how it all works out. I watched one clip on SNY where, like, a few people were talking about, this guy Mendoza, and I went from being indifferent to being like, okay, this is the guy. So, I mean, I'm easy. It's easy to get me going. I'm always
Right.
gonna, be on the side of optimism. But do you have any thoughts on the hire?
Not really. I didn't know much about the guy before he was hired, only the little bit I've read since he was hired. I'm not one of these people that's frantically upset because he worked with the Yankees for years. I don't care. The guy can manage baseball. I don't care where he's from. Bring him from Mars. But as long as, he can do what's necessary, and I do like the fact that they say he relates well with the young Hispanic players, because let's face it, there's a lot of those in this league, and we've got quite a few of them on our team. So, let's go. Let's see what he's got. What it comes down to is, do we retain Pete? Do we get another big time pitcher or two? And, do we get another slugger in the middle of that lineup? I mean, that's what it comes down to, man. If you get those things, I think Mendoza will be fine.
Listen, man. At the end of the day, like when it comes to the whole Pete situation, and I saw Keith Hernandez. He got interviewed and got asked about it. And the thing that he said is, exactly how I feel, which is there's not too many big sluggers who are going to hit 50 home runs just,
No.
just out there. I swear that if they figure out a way to not resign this guy and we don't bring him back, it's going to be one of the worst moments in the history of the Mets. And it's going to be one of those things that for years just kills us because this guy's going to be that dude.
Yeah, no, we have to re-sign Pete. I mean, there's just no two ways around it. I really have a hard time seeing that David Stearns would think that's a good idea right now, is to let Pete go. Come on, man. If you come in and that's the first thing you do, you made the chances that you'll be remembered as a really good um, Mets general manager, or frankly, Steve Cohen. Him letting that happen, dude, man, you're not going to be remembered well. Okay, the trajectory has decidedly gone down if that's the case. So I would, you know, I don't know. I would not. It's not going to happen. We're going to re-sign Pete. I'm confident it's going to happen.
Hey,
Stay strong. Stay strong.
from from your lips to God's ears, man. The thing about Pete is that he's older, and if he wants like a 10-year deal, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you're gonna be 40 something years old at the end of that deal.
Yeah, yeah. See,
So
Pete's got to be reasonable. Okay, stop with the 10 years. I never like these guys. 10 years? Come on, man. I mean, how can you ask me to sign you at an average number for 10 years? How old is Pete now? 31?
I think he's 31. Lindor got 10.
Yeah, but Lindor was a little younger.
He was a
No,
little,
I
he
don't
was a little bit
really.
younger. He was.
I don't know. I don't know. You're 31, 10-year deal. Come on, man. You're asking me to sign you in your 40s at 30, 35, $40 million a year?
Yeah, but
How can that?
10 years from now, that much money.
Okay,
If you're
that's
taking a
what you
straight
say,
trajectory.
but 10 years from now, you're not going to be that type of player. I don't know. I just think that's a lot, man. That's a lot. And a guy Pete's size, he's been very healthy for the most part, but I don't know if I want to sign that guy. And I don't know that I want to sign anybody for 10 years, but you're right. Lindor got that. And Scott Boras is going to try to get as much as he can. The only thing that makes me feel confident is that we've negotiated and, made things happen with Scott Boras. So maybe he's got a good relationship with Cohen.
Yeah, hopefully it works out. But it has to. It just has to. We cannot let
Absolutely
this
has
guy.
to.
We cannot let this guy get away from the organization.
No way.
Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And you can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.